Hello, welcome to another episode of the AW Confidential podcast. Today we have an amazing guest. The topic is dear to my heart and it's just fascinating for me. Oftentimes, we take on jobs to fulfill responsibilities. We choose careers to meet expectations instead of going in the direction of our dreams or our passion. Let's be real, going after the things we want is never easy. It takes courage, will, and confidence. Sormeh Attarzaden is an entrepreneur and co-founder of Zentap, a leading digital marketing solutions app for real estate agents. In 2015, she graduated Loyola-Marymount University and began law school. This was only the beginning of her journey to career joy as a twist of fate changed everything. Today, she is here with us, and I'm so excited. Welcome, Sormeh.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. As we spoke a few minutes ago, I love your story because I think so many of us, have set on this path for ourselves, either because of obligation, because of expectations, but you did something that a lot of us don't have the guts to do. You actually went after what you wanted, your passion. So, can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I feel that a lot of us have this, fear of change or disappointing others, but you went for it. So, can you tell us a little bit about,
Of
that
course.
just how you came into that moment, and what was in what was going through your head when you made that transition?
It was definitely a very scary transition. And something that I didn't expect of myself either. I did, undergrad and, my major was history. The plan was always to go to law school. I was always intrigued by it as well. But I feel like also my culture, most of the women, you're either a doctor or a lawyer. And so I feel like I was just following that path, which made it a little easy. And I was like, oh, well, I picked lawyer out of that. And that's my choice. But I, studied for the LSAT. I got into law school. I did a full semester of it. And towards the end of the semester, I could just see that I wasn't myself anymore. And I kept thinking, maybe this is just what comes with it. This is, just a part of the journey. Like, you might not love the entire journey, but eventually, I'll be happy. But the more that I thought about it, I wasn't satisfied anymore, and I couldn't picture myself fulfilling this journey anymore. And I entered my second semester, and I think it was like a week or two, and I was just sitting in those classes, and I was just so unhappy internally that I couldn't do it anymore. And I opted out. I didn't tell many people, my parents as being one of them, for a few weeks I just kept until I was so confused myself. I was just in a very confused mind state that I didn't even want to tell them, because I knew that, they would push me with good intentions. They've always supported me, which is nice, because I know I have a lot of peers, a lot of fellow women that haven't had that opportunity, and have been forced to fulfill positions and, jobs that they weren't happy with. But I was still very nervous and very scared, because I thought that I would definitely let them down and they would be disappointed, and then they would think, oh, it's something that they did. But it was purely me. So for a few weeks, I didn't even tell them. I told my mom first, and then I practiced on her, and then I grew the courage to tell my dad. But during that transition, I was very confused and honestly a little depressed, because I had thought, I figured it all out. You have this like time frame for yourself. At this age I'm going to do this, and by this age I'm going to be a lawyer. And I thought I had it all figured out. And now I'm back in the beginning, and now starting at just from scratch. So I had no idea what I wanted to do. And after a few weeks of just taking a break, because law school is also very tough. Yeah, intense is a great word. So kudos to everyone who's able to do that. Major props. But I needed that break. But then I realized if I don't work or do something, I'm not going to be able to figure out what I want to do, and I need to
So,
test the waters.
so what was that breaking point? Because I think most of us are on a hamster wheel. We sort of just
Yes.
keep going and going and going. And I think one of the things that, sort of made a lot of people reflect, I'd say recently, was the pandemic. You sort of had to stop. But when you
Yes.
did it, you didn't have all those factors. So
No.
what was that breaking point, that sort of snapped that, you were like, okay, this is it. I have to change.
I was actually sitting in a torts class, and I was starting to space out, and I was just thinking to myself, like, I really didn't feel like me. And what that means, like, for me is like, if I'm not happy, certain things I will complain, but I know that this is all towards the bigger picture. So I will push and I'm okay. But this was different for me. It wasn't one of those situations where it's like I'm verbally venting and you know what, this is for the greater good. This is going to benefit me. It was like I am just not happy at all anymore. I wasn't happy within. I wasn't, and it was starting to show on the outside as well. I was kind of miserable. And it was weighing so heavy on my shoulders that I was just like, you know what? I don't picture myself doing this. I don't see myself fulfilling this with passion. I felt the force was there. It felt forced. It no longer felt like this was my choice anymore. And I just remember like pondering and thinking like, do I do it? What do I do? Like this I spent so much time studying to even get into law school alone, let alone fulfilling a full semester. And that was one of my biggest fears too, is I was scared to let go because I invested this time. But then I was just spacing out in that class, and I was thinking like, I'm still young and I'm not as old as I think I am. And this game plan I have for myself, it doesn't mean anything. I can start from scratch. I don't need to stick to this.
I'm
And that's when I was just like, I'm done. I
I'm
can't do
glad
it
you
anymore.
well, I'm glad you said that because a lot of us, tend to ignore those feelings and that pressure that, that weighs you down. So I'm glad that confronted it because it shows that you're very self-aware, is my impression.
Thank you.
And
I am guilty of ignoring that. I can definitely say, but I was just at a point where I was like, if I don't do something now, then I really am stuck with this. And then the time I spend to go back where I'm still kind of early on in this journey, I have to do something now. So that was
so
a big one.
So, I think so many of us, especially I think women, are myself included, are afraid to go after what we want, and that is in our professional and personal lives. And I think a lot of it has to do, partly it could be resources and just situations that you get into, but I think the other part of it is confidence. I think a lot of us lack that confidence, and I think it's critical to believe in yourself and to have that confidence, which obviously you did.
It
So
took a
did
while.
oh, it took okay.
I'm
Okay.
guilty. I am guilty. When I left law school, I owed school money for law school. I had no resources because I was the type of person where it's like if I'm in school and if I can avoid working and just give school my everything so that I can actually really make the best of it. That's the type of person I am. So I was broke. I had no idea what I wanted to do, and I had confidence, but I never to that extent.
So
It was
so
it was
how did
definitely new.
So how did you build on that confidence? Because if you went from being, okay, I'm a little confident, I'll give it a, I'll push the envelope a little, but you literally made a decision that takes a lot of, woo, just a lot of guts. So
Yeah.
how did you get to that point? Because I'm sure that a lot of our listeners are thinking, how did she do it? What did she do? Did, you know, some people read books, some people listen to podcasts, some people just kind of break out of their shell, through some event or some conversation. How did you get to that point?
I always had like a little confidence in myself because when I was younger, I did fool around and I wasn't the best student that I could have been. And then I got into college, undergrad, and I started to take things a lot more seriously. And I realized, when I was younger, when my teachers were saying, "Oh, she has the ability, but she talks a lot," or she's distracted, and the little things that were holding me back. Once I started to really take things seriously, I thought to myself, like, wow, if I really do push myself, I can do anything. And getting into law school was a big one for me. That gave me a little confidence that I needed, because that just the journey of studying for the LSAT and seeing that I can actually get a good score and get into law school, that made me realize that if I push myself and I really eliminate any distractions, and that when I really want something, that I can make it happen. So when I had that little push and I saw that I was like, well, I got myself here. We made it this far. I had a little bit of confidence. And then I thought that to myself also, it's like these years you have to be selfish and you have to put yourself first. And just being in that mentality of like, I'm really unhappy right now and this isn't satisfying me anymore, and then picturing my future having a career that I'm not passionate about or something that I'm not happy about, really scared me. And that gave me the confidence to, whatever I do, it's better than taking this route, because this is not the route for me.
So wait, so we've been talking about this huge change. What are you doing now? Share with us.
So now, fast forward, I'm so just excited and happy that I've been able to be a part of Zentap, which is a marketing company for any individual in real estate. We have real estate agents, we have brokers, we have mortgage brokers, and we've been able to create a technology to automate content creation for our clients. Because in real estate, they have a lot on their plate. They're holding their hands, like their clients' hands throughout, either the biggest purchase of their lives or the biggest sale, and marketing ends up falling on the lower end of their to-do list. So we're able to help them save time, but also not neglect something that's so important, in especially in this day and age. It's
Yeah.
technology, since even just 5 years ago, has drastically became a huge part of marketing. And so we want to help these people who don't have this time to really spend figuring everything out. It's not that they can't, it's just the time to spend to try to figure it out. There's a lot of trial and error. We help them avoid that.
Okay.
So that's it.
So I have a really good question for you. So you now are doing something you're passionate about. You're doing something that, I assume, I know for me, it's that way. It gives you purpose. But
Yes.
I've learned that nothing is perfect. I'm doing what I love. I'm, inspiring people, but there's always a but. So my question for you is, what is one expectation you had going into this part of your journey that has been challenged, that you feel like, oh, okay, well, I love what I'm doing, but this is not what I expected. There's always that one, at least one thing.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because I didn't expect that I would even end up in this field at all, and specifically in sales. The last sales job I had before this, I was maybe 16, 17 years old for the Beverly Hills Weekly, and I was trying to get people to run ads in our newspaper.
I thought you
And
said you were shy.
I was horrible. That job did not last. My voice would quiver on the phone and I was really bad at it. I was definitely too shy. And then, when this idea was just presented, I didn't expect that for us to get to where we were, that I would actually get on the phone and start selling again. So I revisited those feelings from the past where my voice was shaking, a lot of ums in my, pitch. I was so scared that I didn't know if I sounded like I knew what I was talking about, because I'm a millennial. I understand marketing, I understand technology. There's a lot that I had to learn to get to where I am, but I had the resources. But getting on the phones, I didn't expect that I would be in a garage selling to realtors. I didn't think that was even something that was necessary for us to get to where we are, but I had nothing to lose at that point. I had no money. I had to get something going, and I really believed in the idea. We needed to raise funds to invest into the company to create the software that we have now to become a SaaS company. And so I definitely did not expect getting on the phones and having to learn how to sell. I had to do a lot of, like videos online. Exactly, a lot of, books, and just practicing, a lot of practice. And it took a while for me to ease up, because I would get very tense on those phone calls too in the beginning.
So it sounds like you've learned so much about yourself, about the business world, about probably, of course, technology.
Yes.
What has been and there will be so many more lessons for both of us, but what has been the biggest lesson that you have learned, and that about yourself? Like, what's the biggest lesson and that has even surprised you?
I would say that the biggest lesson that I learned about myself was, if I really am intrigued by something, and I don't let my mind get to me, like mentally, like being too shy, which I'm still battling, but we're way better than before. But if I don't let me get to me, and I just do, and don't think too much about it, I can actually make something happen, if that makes any sense.
I love that.
Biggest enemy could be me. So I learned that I need to not let myself think too much about it and just go. There's going to be failures, there's going to be errors to be made, but it's a good thing. And if I'm making these errors and making these mistakes and going through that, it's going to be a part of something good, as long as like my heart is in it. So that was tough, because I always talked myself out of so many things. Could be the smallest thing that's not even like business related. And later I'm like, why did I let myself get to me? And why didn't I just shoot my shot and just put myself out there? That's like really a big one, is I never put myself out there as much as I thought I could have handled. And I held myself back a lot. So my biggest lesson is definitely to, if I feel something and I'm intrigued, and I have this passion that I'm just feeling spark up, just do it. Even if it comes out like a total mess, just do it, because in the end I might be upset that I never tried it, and I'll never know. And that will get to me way more. Or it'll turn out to be something beautiful,
I love that you said that, because I think most, if not all of our listeners, that will resonate with them. I think a lot of times we get in our own way of our dreams. Either we don't think that we can, or we, look at all the obstacles instead of thinking about, the possibilities. So thank you for sharing that. And
I'm happy to share that.
And just for being vulnerable, because I think we need that as women. we sort of, put on this armor. And I think if we share our stories, we'll be so much stronger, and we'll learn so much. Every episode that I do is, for me, it's a learning experience. I love listening to these stories. And one of the things that I love to do at the end of our interviews is leave the audience with something positive, may it be a message or advice. So my question to you is, many of us are afraid of pursuing our passion or our dreams, just for mere fear, and we get in our own way. So what advice or words can you share about the benefits of going after what you want in life?
Great question. My biggest thing on that, because I really agree, and I really feel like specifically like women, we do put on this armor. That was very well said. And we put this armor on, and we carry ourselves, and on the outside we look extremely content, and we're following this path that we think we have to. And I'm tired of that. Once I was able to see the other side, I don't want to ever hear somebody, putting themselves down and not breaking out of that. And my biggest thing is, be selfish. At one point, you have to realize you're living for yourself. And if you're following this path that doesn't make you happy, you're never going to be fully satisfied. And that was eating at me. And I just couldn't give into that anymore, because you at the end of the day, you're living for yourself. And if you're happy, then more opportunities can come, and you're in a better mind state to actually be able to make something happen, or to make your dreams come true. And being able to be in that mind state is one of the biggest aspects of it, because if you're not mentally there, then you can't really fulfill it. And I would definitely say, just being selfish. And another one is also, not caring what other people will think or say. I was way too worried about, what are people going to think about me? What are they going to say if I left law school? Are they going to think that I couldn't handle it? Or I just failed miserably at it. And I later, now I think back about it, I'm like, why should I care what anybody else thinks? If people know me, and if they care, they will know how I got here and what happened. And if they don't know me and they have their opinion, that's not something that
That's
I
their
need to
opinion.
consider. Exactly. That's their opinion. So I would say definitely not caring. And that goes for my parents too. I was worried about letting them down, because they had the best intentions for me. You think back in the day, you want a secure job, to have a secure salary or income, consistency, and this lifestyle of commission, and, starting with no resources and trying to bring in money, is all very new, for them, at least my parents. And so being able to put myself first, be selfish and put myself first, put my feelings first, and not care what people are going to think and how I'm going to be perceived. That was a big one for me to help me get to where I am. And I highly recommend it for anyone who's contemplating or who's like on the fence. Just do it, because if you don't, then you're going to always wonder or think to yourself, like, I should have did this. I could have been this. I could have did that. I'm still not happy, and it's
I
not
love
worth
that.
it. Life is too short. It's not worth it.
I love that. I know you're inspiring so many
I
men
hope
and
so.
women. Oh,
I
absolutely.
really hope so.
So, for the listeners that want to know more about you, where can they find you?
On LinkedIn. I am on LinkedIn. Anybody can message me on there. I'm pretty active with the messages on there. I love LinkedIn because it's so easy to connect with people, and it's a platform I notice that anybody can connect, and you don't have to be so shy either. So I liked LinkedIn for that when I first got on there.
I don't think you're as shy as you say you are.
I hope I don't come off that way, because I'm trying to put it out there so that it becomes a more normal thing for me, because I get very nervous and very shy. but I just do it. I just put myself out there and I'm like, what's the worst that's going to happen?
I love your story,
Thank
Sormeh. Thank you
you.
so much
I
for
love what you're doing
thank
too,
you.
putting that out there and really helping people connect and it to another level. It's a big deal. So thank you.
Well, thank you for being an inspiration.
Thank
Listeners, you've
you.
heard it here. Put yourself first. Thank you for joining us on another episode from the AW Confidential podcast.
Thank you for